In this tutorial, we'll cover tenant information, rent details, tenant notes, and tenant payments pages. Let's start off by going to our properties page. Click the properties button. Now this is a list of our properties. We currently have one. Click on the property. Click on the tenant that we want to view the detail page for. So let's choose 99 Cent Paradise. Notice the additional actions that are now enabled that will allow us to visit the specific tenant pages. So why don't we start off by clicking the Tenant Info to visit the tenant information page. Let's click on that. Tenant information page. Being that this is our first time visiting this page, let's go through this helper. Let's click the Let's Get Going button. Our addresses and contacts. This is where we send the tenant invoice to. And this is where the tenant sends us payments to. Tenant name and premise use. Click the Update Info button to update that information. Visit other tenant pages and choose another tenant. Now we're ready to use this page. By default, we have the unit address as part of the tenant contact list. Now we can add additional addresses by clicking the Add Address button. Why don't we do that? Let's enter in a contact. This contact could be anybody else related to this tenant. So in our case, Michael Johnson is a partner. And let's enter in his address now. Now city, state, and zip as well. We can enter up to 2 phone numbers, so it could be a house number or a cell phone number. So let's enter in a phone number. We can also have fax number as well as email when we enter an email address. And remember to click Save when done. Now this will add this address to the tenant contact list. Now the unit address is an address that cannot be deleted. We can only modify certain information in the unit address. So let's modify the unit address. Notice some of the fields here are grayed out and cannot be modified, so we can only change phone numbers in our case. If we do want to modify unit information such as address, then we need to go into the properties units page to do that. So let's click Save to save our changes. Now let's assume that our tenant wants to receive his invoices at the Michael Johnson address. Let's click the Send Bills to icon and select the Michael Johnson or the partner address. Let's click on that and notice the address has changed. Let's also assume that we want to receive payments at the management address office as opposed to having it sent directly to the owner. And let's change that as well. Now these addresses are going to be visible on the tenant invoice, so this is why we're changing the settings here. Once we update tenant name or premise use, remember to click the Update Info button. So let's select a different tenant now and click on this icon here and select our second tenant. Now this is the tenant information page for our second tenant, or Jonathan Lake. So notice the address or the contact information. We could do the same actions here. We can add, modify, or delete an address. Why don't we go back to our previous tenant and visit the other tenant related pages. Now do the same thing, select another tenant, select 99 Cent Store Paradise, and the tenant information page for that tenant will load. Now to visit the other pages, we can click on the icons here. Let's click the rent detail icon. This will take us to the rent details page for the 99 Cents Paradise. Now let's go through this helper. These are our basic lease terms. We can click the update to update any of the information there. This is our rent breakdown, and these are our scheduled additional charges. We can visit other tenant pages by clicking the icons here, or select another tenant to view the rent detail information for. And we're ready to use this page. You can make changes to any of the lease terms here, and remember to click the Update button to save your changes. On the right hand side is the rent breakdown for this tenant. This again is a 10-year lease with 1 5-year option. We can modify any of the rent breakdown items here. Let's click on any one of them and click Modify. You can modify any of the fields here and click Save to save your changes. On the bottom here are the scheduled additional charges that we've added through the wizard. You can add additional charges, modify or delete any of the existing charges. Now that we went through all the sections here, let's visit the Tenant Notes and Documents page. One of the ways to visit that page is either by clicking the icon here, or we can also click the Tenant Notes on the actions on this page. Notice here, Tenant Notes. Let's click on the Tenant Notes to visit the Tenant Notes page. Now this is the Tenant Notes page. Being that this is our first time, let's go through the helper. These are the different tabs: Communication Log, Notes, and Documents. You can visit other pages and choose another tenant. Communication Log allows you to track any communications between you and your tenant. So if you want to store any information, we can do that here. So let's add a communication log item. An example could be roof repair or rent demand notice. So some of the key fields here are reported date, reported by. So this way we know when the issue was reported and who reported it, and when we need to resolve this issue by, and the current status of the item and any comment we want to add here. So click Save when done, and your communication log item is saved. So if we want to make changes, we can click on it and click Modify to modify it. The Notes tab allows you to store any notes or custom fields related to this tenant. Let's type in some notes, and remember to click the Update Notes button to save your changes. We can customize any of the labels for these fields here by clicking the Customize These Fields button. So let's click that button and have the labels changed. So the labels can be anything. So let's set the first one to pets, and the second one could be wife's name. Click Save to save our changes. Now we can enter in the field values. Notice the labels have changed. So let's enter the field values and click the Update Fields to save your changes. We'll cover the upload documents at a later video, so for now let's go to the Tenant's Payment screen by clicking the Tenant Payments action. This will take us to the Tenant Payment screen. Again, this is our first time on the screen. Let's go through this helper. This is where the tenant payments are. If you want to return any of the tenant's payments, we click here. Tenant bills are here on this tab. We can visit other pages as well as select another tenant from our list. Since we don't have any payments nor bills yet, these lists here are blank. We'll come back to these in another video once we have some data populated in our application. And this covers our review tenant tutorial.